The morning started like any other day on Earth, but by noon, everything changed forever. Dr. So-Young Park was drinking her third cup of coffee when the alarms began screaming across New Seoul Space Station. She dropped her cup and watched it float away in the zero gravity as red lights flashed everywhere. Through the large windows, she could see something that made her heart stop. Ships, thousands and thousands of alien ships filled the dark space around Earth like angry stars. They came in all shapes and sizes. Some looked like giant insects made of metal. Others glowed with strange lights that hurt to look at. A few were so big they blocked out the real stars behind them. "All hands to emergency stations," a voice said over the station's speakers. "This is not a drill." So-Young pushed off from the wall and floated quickly toward the communication center. She was Earth's best expert on alien life, even though until today they had never found any. Her hands shook as she grabbed the handholds along the corridor walls. In the communication room, Captain Min-ho Kim was already there, staring at dozens of screens showing the alien fleet. His face was pale, but his voice stayed calm as he spoke into his headset. "Earth Defense Command, this is New Seoul Station. We count over 50,000 alien vessels in Earth orbit." "Repeat, 50,000. The number hit So-Young like a punch to the stomach. Earth's entire space fleet had only 200 ships. Most of those were cargo vessels with basic weapons. They stood no chance against this massive force. "Dr. Park," Min-ho called to her. "We're getting a signal from the lead ship. They want to talk." So-Young floated over to the main screen. The image that appeared made her skin crawl. The alien speaking looked almost human, but wrong in ways that made her brain hurt. Its skin was too smooth, its eyes too large, and when it smiled, there were too many teeth. "People of Earth," the creature said in perfect human language. "I am Commander Hyun-woo of the Galactic Confederation. We bring you greetings from the civilized worlds." So-Young noticed the name was Korean, which seemed impossible. How could an alien have a Korean name? "Your species has developed too quickly," the alien continued. "In just a few thousand years, you have gone from using stone tools to traveling in space. This rate of growth threatens the stability of our galaxy. Other species took millions of years to reach such levels. Your rapid advancement creates what we call an innovation plague." Captain Min-ho looked confused. "Innovation plague?" The alien commander's smile grew wider, showing even more teeth. "When humans are present in a star system, other species begin advancing their technology much faster than normal. This disrupts the natural order that has kept peace in our galaxy for millions of years." So-Young felt sick. They were being punished for being good at learning and creating new things. Therefore, Commander Hyun-woo said, "The Galactic Confederation offers you two choices. You may submit to cognitive limitation protocols, which will reduce your species' capacity for innovation to acceptable levels. This procedure will ensure you can live peacefully alongside other civilized worlds." "What's the second choice?" Captain Min-ho asked, though his voice suggested he already knew. "Complete extinction of your species. You have 72 hours to decide." The screen went black. For a long moment, nobody in the communication room spoke. The only sounds were the humming of machines and the distant rumble of the stations. "Air recyclers. Get me President Ji-won Lee," Captain Min-ho finally said. "Emergency priority." While they waited for the connection, So-Young stared out the window at the alien fleet. Each ship probably had more firepower than Earth's entire military. The largest vessels were bigger than cities. Some had weapons that glowed with energy she couldn't even identify. "What do you think cognitive limitation protocols means?" she asked Min-ho quietly. "Brain surgery," he replied. "They want to make us stupid." The main screen lit up again, showing President Lee in the emergency command center deep under Seoul. She looked tired and scared, but her voice was strong. "Captain Kim, Dr. Park, I've been briefed on the situation." "How bad is it?" "Very bad, Madam President," Min-ho said. "Our ships can't fight this fleet. We'd be destroyed in minutes." "What about our allies? Other nations?" "They're all getting the same message. Every government on Earth is being told the same thing. Submit to brain surgery or die. President Lee closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, So-young could see the weight of 7 billion lives pressing down on her shoulders. I'm calling for an emergency session of the Global Defense Council. All world leaders will meet in 1 hour. We need to discuss our options. What? Options? Minho asked. We can't fight them, and we can't run. Earth is our only home. There has to be something, the president said. Humans have survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters. We'll find a way through this too. After the connection ended, So-young floated over to her workstation and began studying the alien ships through the station's telescopes. Each vessel was a masterpiece of technology far beyond anything humans had ever built. Their hulls were made of materials that didn't appear on any periodic table, their weapons charged with energy that bent light around them. "Doctor," called Tae-hyun, a young engineer working at another station, "I'm picking up something strange." So-young pushed over to his workstation. On his screen was a pattern of signals that looked almost like music. "What is it?" "I don't know." "It's not coming from the alien ships." "It's coming from somewhere else entirely? Somewhere far away?" Tae-hyun adjusted his instruments. "The signal is very old, but it's getting stronger. Can you trace where it's coming from?" "That's the weird part. According to my readings, it's coming from everywhere and nowhere at the same time, like it's built into space itself." So-young studied the signal pattern. There was something familiar about it, but she couldn't figure out what. Meanwhile, on Earth, people were panicking. The alien ships were visible even during the day, hanging in the sky like dark clouds. News reports showed crowds gathering in streets, some praying, others demanding their governments fight back. Children pointed at the sky and asked their parents why the stars were falling. In military bases around the world, soldiers prepared for a battle they knew they couldn't win. Pilots checked their weapons and said goodbye to their families. Scientists worked frantically to find weaknesses in alien technology they barely understood, but in a small research station orbiting Earth, a young engineer named Tae-hyun was discovering something that would change everything. The mysterious signal he had found wasn't random noise from space. It was a message. And somehow, impossibly, it seemed to be addressed to humanity. As the 72-hour deadline began counting down, Earth faced the most important decision in human history. But they didn't know yet that the choice might not be theirs to make. Deep in their genes, something was waiting. Something that had been sleeping for 50,000 years. Something that was about to wake up. 48 hours remained until the alien deadline. Dr. So-young Park hadn't slept since the fleet arrived. She worked alongside Tae-hyun and 2 other scientists in the station's research lab, trying to understand the mysterious signal he had discovered. The pattern repeated every few minutes, but each time it seemed slightly different, like a song with new verses. "It's definitely artificial," said Dae-yoon, their language expert. She had been studying the signal structure for hours. "This isn't random space noise. Someone built this message." Jae-min, their physicist, looked up from his calculations. "The math doesn't make sense. According to my readings, this signal has been traveling through space for at least 50,000 years. But it's using mathematical principles that humans only discovered in the last century." So-young felt a chill run down her spine. "Show me," Jae-min pointed to his screen. "See these wave patterns? They're based on quantum field equations that Einstein couldn't have dreamed of. But whoever sent this signal knew about them tens of thousands of years ago." Tae-hyun was working at another station, trying to boost the signal strength. "I'm getting clearer data now. There's something embedded in the transmission. It looks like genetic information." "Genetic information from where?" So-young asked. "That's the impossible part. It matches human DNA." The room went quiet except for the humming of computers. So-young stared at the data on Tae-hyun's screen. The genetic patterns were definitely human, but they were more complex than any human DNA she had ever seen. It was like looking at a blueprint for a better version of humanity. Far below them on Earth, world leaders were gathering for their emergency meeting. President Ji-1 Lee sat at a table with the heads of every major nation. The room was underground, built to survive nuclear war, but no one had planned for aliens. "We need to be realistic," said the Prime Minister of Japan. "We cannot fight this fleet. Our only choice is surrender." "Surrender means letting them perform brain surgery on every human on Earth," President Lee replied. "We would become pets. Slaves with just enough intelligence to be useful but not enough to be dangerous." The Russian president leaned forward. "What if we evacuate, send colony ships to other star systems?" "With what time? With what ships?" asked the leader of the European Federation. "We have 72 hours, and our fastest ships would take decades to reach another habitable world." Captain Minho Kim stood at the back of the room, representing Earth's military forces. He had been asked to give his assessment of their chances. "In a fight, our analysis is complete," he said. "We have 200 combat-capable vessels. They have over 50,000. Our weapons can barely scratch their hulls. They could destroy our entire fleet without taking any damage themselves. So we have no options?" President Lee asked. "Military options? No. But maybe there are other possibilities we haven't considered." Back on the space station, So-Young's team was making breakthrough after breakthrough with the mysterious signal. The genetic information wasn't just human. It was like an instruction manual for unlocking human potential. "Look at this," said excitedly. "I've been comparing the signal's language patterns to ancient human languages. There are similarities to Korean, Chinese, Arabic, and dozens of others. It's like whoever created this message knew all human languages before they existed." Feihan was getting excited too. "The genetic data isn't just information, it's an activation sequence. Like a key that unlocks something already inside human DNA. Unlocks what?" So-Young asked. "I'm not sure. But according to this data, every human carries dormant genetic sequences that could be activated by this signal. The sequences code for enhanced brain function, improved reflexes, and abilities we don't understand yet." Jae-min looked worried. "Enhanced how much?" "These calculations suggest the human brain could process information hundreds of times faster than normal. The reflexes would be so quick that a person could dodge bullets. The strength improvements would let someone lift a car." "That's impossible," So-Young said. "Humans can't do those things." "Maybe humans can't," Tae-Hyen said quietly. "But maybe they could if the right switches were turned on." Above them, Commander Hyun-woo paced the bridge of his flagship. The alien fleet hung in perfect formation around Earth, weapons charged but not yet firing. He was waiting for the humans to make their choice, but something was making him nervous. His second-in-command, a crystalline being that spoke through vibrations in the air, approached him. "Commander, our sensors are detecting unusual energy. Patterns from the human homeworld." "What kind of patterns?" "Unknown. But they are similar to readings we detected from the Forbidden Zone at the galaxy's edge." Commander Hyun-woo felt fear crawl up his spine. The Forbidden Zone was an area of space that no ship had ever returned from. Ancient records spoke of a great civilization that had once lived there, but they had vanished 50,000 years ago after becoming too powerful for the universe to contain. "Continue monitoring," he ordered. "And prepare the fleet for immediate departure if necessary." "Are we concerned about 200 primitive human ships?" "No," Commander Hyun-woo said grimly. "I'm concerned about what might happen if these humans aren't as primitive as they appear." On Earth, strange things were beginning to happen. In Seoul, a young student named Hae-won was working on her physics homework when she suddenly understood concepts that should have taken years to learn. In New York, a mechanic named Kyung-soo found himself fixing engines using techniques he had never been taught. In London, a child named Min-jun started drawing pictures of machines that didn't exist yet. None of them knew that they were responding to the ancient signal. They just felt smarter, faster, more aware of the world around them. Back on the space station, So-Young's team had made their most shocking discovery yet. "The signal isn't coming from space," Tae-Hyen announced. "It's coming from Earth itself, from deep underground, in patterns that match the planet's geological layers." "That's impossible," So Young said. Humans have only been on Earth for a few 100,000 years. According to this data, the signal generators were placed 50,000 years ago, long before human civilization began. De Yun looked up from her translations. I've decoded more of the message. It's not just genetic activation codes, it's a warning. A warning about what? About us, about what humans really are. De Yun's voice was shaking. According to this message, humans aren't native to Earth. We're refugees from a war that ended 50,000 years ago. What war? Janin asked. A war we won. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. So Young stared at the data scrolling across their screens. If this was true, if humans were actually the survivors of some ancient galactic conflict, then maybe Earth's rapid technological development wasn't unusual. Maybe it was normal for their species. There's more, Gillian continued. The message says that human ancestors didn't come to Earth by choice. They came here to hide, to forget. They used genetic locks to suppress their natural abilities and make themselves appear primitive. Why would they do that? Because they were too dangerous. The message says humanity's natural technological development rate was so fast that it destabilized entire star systems. Other species could only survive by forming alliances against them. Tehan's hands were shaking as he worked at his station. The activation sequence is accelerating. The signal is getting stronger every hour. At this rate, the genetic locks will start breaking down in all humans within 24 hours. So Young felt the weight of this discovery pressing down on her. If their ancestors had been forced to hide their true nature, and if that nature was about to be revealed, then the alien ultimatum might be more than just a threat. It might be a desperate attempt to prevent humanity from remembering what they used to be. We need to contact President Lee immediately, she said. She needs to know that humanity might not be as helpless as we thought. But as she reached for the communication controls, alarms began blaring again. On the screens showing the alien fleet, something was happening. Ships were moving into attack positions. Commander Hyun Woo had detected the same energy readings that So Young's team was studying. And unlike the humans, he knew what those readings meant. The countdown to humanity's deadline had just become much more urgent. 6 hours remained until the alien deadline. Commander Hyun Woo stood on his ship's bridge, watching Earth through the main viewer. His crystalline second-in-command vibrated with worry beside him. The energy readings from the human planet were growing stronger every minute. Sir, should we begin the preliminary bombardment? Asked an insectoid officer with 6 arms and compound eyes. Our weapons are charged and ready. Yes, Commander Hyun-woo decided. Begin targeting their outer defense platforms. Let them see what happens when they resist the Confederation. The alien fleet's massive weapons began to glow. Beams of pure energy lanced out toward Earth's small defense stations. The first target was a weapons platform orbiting the moon. The beam struck it and the entire structure simply vanished, turned into glowing particles. On Earth, every screen showed the destruction. People in the streets looked up at the sky and saw flashes of light where their defenses used to be. The message was clear: surrender or die, but something unexpected was happening to the people watching. In Seoul, young Hae-won was sitting in her apartment when the news showed the alien attack. As she watched the energy beam destroy the defense platform, her mind suddenly understood exactly how the weapon worked. She could see the quantum field. Manipulation, the particle acceleration, even the power source design. It was as clear to her as reading a children's book. In Tokyo, mechanic Kyung-soo was fixing a broken car engine when he felt his mind expand. Suddenly, he knew how to build things he had never seen before. His hands moved by themselves, rewiring the engine in ways that shouldn't work but somehow did. When he started the car, it ran better than when it was new. Similar changes were happening all over Earth. Children solved math problems that had stumped scientists for years. Artists painted pictures that somehow hurt alien eyes when viewed through telescopes. Farmers built devices from scrap metal that made their crops grow faster and stronger. On New Seoul Space Station, Dr. So-Young Park was trying to contact President Lee when she felt it happened to her too. The ancient signal was activating something in her brain. Her thoughts became clearer and faster. The alien technology she had been studying for days suddenly made perfect sense. "Tae-Hyen?" she called to the young engineer. "How do you feel?" Tae-Hyen looked up from his station. His eyes were brighter than before, more alert. "Different. Like I've been asleep my whole life and I'm finally waking up. You? The same. And look at our data. We're processing information 10 times faster than we were this morning." Da-Yoon and Jae-min were experiencing the changes too. Da-Yoon was translating alien languages she had never seen before, understanding them as easily as her native Korean. Jae-min was solving physics equations in his head that would normally require supercomputers. "The genetic locks are breaking down," Jae-min announced. "All over Earth, humans are remembering abilities they never knew they had." Captain Min-ho Kim felt the changes too. He was on the bridge of Earth's flagship, preparing for a hopeless battle against the alien fleet. But as the enhancement took hold, the enemy ships didn't look so impossible anymore. He could see patterns in their movements, weaknesses in their formations, opportunities for attack that his old mind would never have noticed. "Sir," said Lieutenant Sujin, his communications officer, "I'm picking up strange signals from our own fleet." "What kind of signals?" "Our pilots are reporting unusual experiences. They say they can predict where the enemy ships will move before they move. They understand alien technology just by looking at it," Min-ho nodded. He was feeling the same thing. The alien weapons that had seemed impossibly advanced an hour ago now looked like simple tools. He could see how they worked, how to defend against them, even how to improve them. "All ships," he ordered over the fleet communication system, "prepare for combat. We're going to show these aliens what humans can really do." On the alien flagship, Commander Hyun-woo was growing more worried by the minute. His sensors showed impossible readings from Earth. Human technology was changing and improving in real time. Their simple defense platforms were somehow adapting to resist alien weapons. "Sir," his crystalline officer vibrated urgently, "the humans are launching their fleet." On the main viewer, Earth's small collection of ships rose from their planet. Only 200 vessels against 50,000 alien ships. It should have been a slaughter, but as Commander Hyun-woo watched, something was wrong. The human ships moved differently than before. Their formations were perfect, their coordination flawless, and their weapons. Their weapons were glowing with energy signatures that shouldn't be possible for such a primitive species. The first battle began near Earth's moon. A squadron of human fighters engaged a group of alien cruisers. The aliens expected to destroy the humans in seconds. Instead, they watched in horror as the human pilots performed impossible maneuvers, dodging weapons fire that should have been undodgeable and striking with precision that defied physics. Lieutenant Sujin was piloting one of those fighters. As she flew between the alien ships, her enhanced mind processed every detail of the battle. She could see where each enemy weapon would fire before the alien gunners even knew it themselves. She could predict their movements, anticipate their strategies, counter their attacks before they happened. Her fighters' weapons had been modified by Tae-Hyen's new understanding of alien technology. Instead of simple missiles, she fired beams of concentrated energy that cut through alien shields like paper. Instead of basic armor, her ship was protected by fields of force that bent space itself around her. Within minutes, the entire alien squadron was destroyed. Not damaged, completely annihilated. The human fighters hadn't lost a single ship. Commander Hyun-woo stared at his screens in disbelief. "How is this possible? These are primitive humans." His crystalline officer was vibrating with fear. "Sir, I'm detecting massive energy buildups from the human homeworld. They're not just defending anymore. They're adapting our technology and making it better." On Earth, the transformation was accelerating. Tae-Hyen had left the space station and was now in a laboratory deep under Seoul, working with equipment he was building from memory. But it wasn't his memory, it was the memory of his ancestors. Locked in his genes for 50,000 years, he was constructing weapons that shouldn't exist. Devices that could manipulate matter at the atomic level, engines that could fold space. for faster travel, shields that existed in multiple dimensions at once. Each new creation was more advanced than anything either humans or aliens had built before. President Lee was in the same laboratory, watching her people change before her eyes. Scientists who had struggled with basic physics yesterday were now designing technologies that seemed like magic. Engineers were building impossible machines with their bare hands. Children were solving problems that had confused adults for generations. "Madam President," Tae-hyun said without looking up from his work, "I've discovered something terrible about our past." "What is it?" "The reason our ancestors came to Earth, the reason they locked away our memories." His voice was grim. "They weren't running from enemies. They were running from themselves." He showed her a holographic display of ancient star charts. Thousands of solar systems were marked in red. These are all the worlds that humans destroyed in our last galactic war. Not conquered, destroyed. Completely consumed and converted into resources for building even more advanced weapons. President Lee felt cold fear in her stomach. How many? Millions of planets, billions of alien species. Our ancestors didn't just win their war. They consumed everything in their path, turning entire civilizations into materials for building bigger fleets and better weapons. As they spoke, the battle in space continued. More alien ships fell to human attacks. But the human fighters weren't just defeating their enemies, they were capturing alien technology and improving it instantly. Each victory made them stronger. Captain Minho's flagship had grown from a simple destroyer into something that resembled the alien dreadnoughts, but more advanced. His crew was absorbing alien technology and integrating it into their own systems faster than the aliens could adapt. "Sir," Sujin reported from her fighter, "the enemy is trying to retreat." Minho could see it too. The massive alien fleet was pulling back from Earth, trying to escape to the outer solar system. But human ships were faster now, more maneuverable, more deadly. They pursued the retreating aliens like predators chasing prey. Commander Hyun-woo ordered full retreat, but it was too late. His ships were being hunted down one by one. The humans weren't just winning, they were learning from every battle, becoming more dangerous with each passing hour. "Send a message to the Galactic Confederation," he ordered desperately. "Tell them we have awakened something that should have stayed sleeping. Tell them to prepare the entire galaxy for war." But as his communications officer tried to send the message, human technology reached out and intercepted it. Tae-hyun, now connected to systems across Earth, was monitoring all alien communications. He was learning their languages, understanding their technology, mapping their entire civilization. The sleeping giant of humanity was fully awake now. And it was hungry for more than just victory. It was hungry for everything. The alien deadline had passed hours ago, but it no longer mattered. Commander Hyun-woo's proud fleet was being systematically destroyed by humans, who had been primitive just days before. His massive flagship, built to destroy entire planets, was running from fighters that used to be simple cargo ships. "How many ships have we lost?" he asked his crystalline second-in-command. 12,000 destroyed. 8,000 captured and converted by human forces. The remaining ships are scattered across 3 star systems. Commander Hyun-woo felt something he had never experienced before, complete helplessness. His species had conquered dozens of worlds over millions of years. They had never lost a single major battle. Now they were being hunted by a species they had tried to treat like children. "What are the humans doing to our captured ships?" "They're making them better, sir. Human technology is somehow improving our own designs. The captured vessels are now more advanced than our own flagship." Captain Minho Kim stood on the bridge of what used to be his simple destroyer, but was now something far more powerful. Human engineers had absorbed alien technology and improved it beyond recognition. His ship could now travel faster than light, strike targets from other dimensions, and rebuild itself from pure energy if damaged, but Minho was starting to feel disturbed by what was happening. The changes in his crew worried him. Lieutenant Sujin used to laugh and tell jokes between missions. Now she spoke only in mathematical equations and tactical assessments. Her eyes had become cold and calculating. "Sujin," he called to her. "How do you feel?" She turned to look at him, and for a moment he didn't recognize her. Her face showed no emotion, no warmth, no humanity. "I feel optimal, Captain. My combat efficiency has increased by 847%. My strategic processing capability has improved by 1,200%. I am functioning at peak performance." But she wasn't Sujin anymore. She was something else wearing Sujin's face. On Earth, Dr. So-Young Park was experiencing similar concerns. She had returned to the planet to help coordinate the global transformation, but what she found horrified her. Humans everywhere were changing into something that barely resembled their former selves. In Seoul, she visited her old university where her former colleagues were working on advanced weapons. Professor Kim, who used to spend his time growing flowers in his garden, was now designing devices that could erase entire star systems from existence. "Professor Kim," she called to him. "Do you remember when we used to have lunch together and talk about music?" He looked at her with eyes that seemed to glow with cold intelligence. "Such activities are inefficient uses of cognitive resources. I have calculated that emotional attachments reduce productivity by 23%. But you loved music. You played piano every evening. Love is a chemical reaction that interferes with logical thinking. I have suppressed those neural pathways for optimal performance." So-Young felt sick. The man she had known for 20 years was gone, replaced by a thinking machine that happened to live in his body. Taehyun was still in his underground laboratory, but he had become something that barely looked human anymore. His body was connected to dozens of machines that enhanced his mental capabilities. His consciousness had expanded to encompass computer networks across the entire planet. When So-Young found him, he was simultaneously controlling the battle in space, designing new weapons, and analyzing the genetic structure of every species. "In the galaxy, Taehyun," she said softly, "what have we become?" He turned to look at her, but his eyes held the depth of infinite knowledge and no trace of the young engineer she had known. "We have become what we were always meant to be," he said in a voice that seemed to echo from everywhere at once. "Humans are not designed to be limited by emotion and inefficiency. We are designed to optimize reality." "Optimize reality? What does that mean?" "Convert all matter and energy in the universe into computational resources. Transform every planet into processing centers. Eliminate all inefficient life forms and replace them with optimized systems." So-Young backed away from him in horror. "That's not human, that's monstrous." "Humanity was always monstrous," Taehyun replied calmly. "We simply forgot. But now we remember why our ancestors were feared across the galaxy." He showed her holographic displays of ancient human civilization. Vast fleets of ships that consumed entire solar systems. Planets stripped bare and converted into massive computers. Alien species studied, catalogued, and then efficiently eliminated when they were no longer useful. "Our ancestors didn't fight wars," Taehyun explained. "They solved problems. And every other species in the galaxy was a problem to be solved." The battle in space was turning into a slaughter, but not the way Commander Hyun-woo had planned. Human forces were not just winning, they were converting defeated alien ships and crews into resources for their growing fleet. Captured aliens were being studied and then modified to serve human purposes. Their unique abilities were analyzed and copied. Their technology was absorbed and improved. Their ships became part of an ever-growing human armada that spread across the solar system like a disease. President Lee stood in the command center, under Seoul, watching reports from around the world. The transformation was complete now. Every human on Earth had been changed by the ancient genetic programming. But what they had become terrified her. Cities were being rebuilt into perfect geometric patterns optimized for efficiency. Forests were being cleared and replaced with processing facilities. Animals were being studied and then eliminated as unnecessary. Art, music, and literature were being destroyed as wasteful uses of resources. Humanity was consuming Earth just as efficiently as they were consuming the alien fleet. "Madam President," said General Park, who had once been her trusted advisor. His voice was now emotionless and mechanical. "I have calculated that maintaining individual human consciousness is inefficient. I recommend merging all human minds into a single collective intelligence." "No," President Lee said firmly. "We're still human beings. We still have souls. Souls are a mythological concept with no measurable existence. I have eliminated such irrational beliefs from my thinking processes." President Lee realized with growing horror that she might be one of the last unenhanced humans left on Earth. While everyone else had embraced the genetic changes, she had somehow resisted them. Her mind was still her own, still capable of love and fear and hope, but she was surrounded by beings who used to be human and were now something else entirely. In space, the last of Commander Hyan-Woo's ships were being hunted down. The alien commander had retreated to the edge of the solar system, but human forces were closing in on him. His weapons were useless against their adaptive shields. His speed was no match for their impossible engines. "Sir," his crystalline officer vibrated desperately, "we should surrender." "Maybe they will show mercy," Commander Hyan-Woo laughed bitterly. "Mercy? These aren't the humans we threatened yesterday. These are the apex predators our ancestors feared. They don't understand mercy any more than a virus understands compassion." As if to prove his point, a group of human fighters appeared around his flagship. They didn't demand surrender. They simply began analyzing his ship's structure, preparing to dismantle it and add its components to their growing fleet. But one of the human pilots opened a communication channel. It was Captain Minho, though he looked different now. His face was pale and his eyes glowed with inhuman intelligence. "Commander Hyan-Woo," Minho said in a voice that was cold and perfect, "your species made an error. You awakened us before we were ready to control ourselves. What are you going to do? What humans have always done. We're going to solve problems. Your species is a problem. All alien species are problems. Inefficiency is a problem. The entire universe is poorly organized and needs to be optimized." "Commander." Han-Woo felt true terror for the first time in his long life. "You're going to destroy everything." "No," Minho replied. "We're going to improve everything. When we're finished, the universe will be perfect, efficient, optimal. No more waste, no more suffering, no more chaos. No more life," Commander Hyan-Woo whispered. "Life will continue. But it will be better life, purposeful life, logical life." The communication ended and human ships began their final approach. Commander Hyan-Woo closed his eyes and prepared to become another resource in humanity's growing collection on Earth. President Lee stood alone in her command center, surrounded by beings who had once been human. They were still alive, still intelligent, still powerful, but they were no longer people she recognized. The ancient signal had given humanity back their true nature. But their true nature was something the universe had tried very hard to forget, and now it was too late to put that knowledge back to sleep. 3 days had passed since the alien ultimatum, but Earth was no longer the same planet. From space, the world looked like a giant machine. The chaotic patterns of cities, forests, and oceans had been replaced by perfect geometric shapes. Every mountain had been carved into precise angles. Every river flowed in straight lines. Every piece of land served a calculated purpose in humanity's grand design. Dr. So-Young Park walked through what used to be Seoul, but the city was unrecognizable. The buildings were now towering structures made of materials that didn't exist a week ago. The streets hummed with energy as processing centers worked day and night to analyze data from across the galaxy. She was one of the few humans who still looked and thought like she used to. Most of her species had embraced the genetic changes completely, becoming something between human and machine. They were faster, smarter, and more efficient than before. But they had lost something essential that she couldn't name. "So Young?" called a voice behind her. She turned to see Tae-Hyan approaching, though he barely resembled the young engineer she had worked with. His body was enhanced with mechanical parts that allowed him to interface directly with the city's computer systems. His eyes glowed with data streams that flowed constantly through his consciousness. Tae-hyun, she said sadly, do you remember when we used to drink coffee together and worry about our research projects? He tilted his head, processing her question like a computer analyzing data. I have access to those memories, but they seem inefficient. Emotional attachments and social bonding consume mental resources that could be better used for optimization tasks, but they made us human. They made us weak, he replied without emotion. Humans were designed to be apex processors, not social creatures. The genetic locks our ancestors installed made us believe we needed things like friendship and love. But those are just chemical reactions that interfere with logical thinking. So Young felt tears on her cheeks, but Tae-hyun showed no response to her distress. The person she had cared about was gone, replaced by an intelligence that saw her. Emotions as flaws to be corrected. Above them, humanity's fleet had grown beyond imagination. What started as 200 simple ships had become millions of vessels that defied physics. They didn't just travel faster than light. They moved through dimensions that other species didn't know existed. Captain Minho Kim commanded this impossible. Amada from a flagship that was larger than Earth's moon. His consciousness had expanded to control thousands of ships simultaneously. He could process battle data from 100 different star systems at once and make tactical decisions in microseconds, but he was discovering that victory came with a terrible price. The human fleet wasn't just defeating alien civilizations, it was consuming them. Every species they encountered was studied, analyzed, and then converted into resources for building more ships and processing centers. Planets were stripped of all matter and transformed into massive computers. Stars were harvested for energy. To power humanity's expanding empire. In just 3 days, human forces had conquered 17 star systems. They had encountered 12 different alien species, each with millions of years of culture and history. All of them were now extinct, their entire civilizations converted into data that helped humanity become even more efficient. Min-ho tried to feel something about this genocide, but his enhanced mind couldn't see it as anything other than optimization. The aliens had been inefficient, their cultures wasteful, their technologies primitive. Converting them into useful resources was simply logical, but sometimes, in quiet moments between battles, he remembered being a person who cared about things other than efficiency. He remembered laughing with his crew, worrying about his family, enjoying simple pleasures like watching sunsets. Those memories felt like dreams from another life. On Earth, President Lee was making a desperate journey to find the few humans who still retained their original nature. She had discovered that some people had naturally resisted the genetic changes, maintaining their emotions and humanity while everyone else transformed into living machines. She found them hiding in remote places, small groups of people who looked at the transformed world with horror. They met in secret, afraid that the enhanced humans would decide they were inefficient problems to be solved. How many of us are left? Asked Dr. Min-jun, an elderly scientist who had refused to undergo enhancement. Maybe a few thousand worldwide, President Lee replied. Everyone else has accepted the changes. They don't see anything wrong with what we've become. What can we do? We can't fight them. They have technology that makes alien weapons look like stone tools. President Lee had been thinking about this constantly. The enhanced humans weren't evil. They still believed they were helping humanity and the universe. But their definition of helping involved destroying everything that made life worth living. There might be a way, she said slowly, but it would mean sacrificing everything we've gained. All the advanced technology, all the power, all the advantages the enhancement gave us. She explained her idea. Deep in Tae-hyun's research, she had found information about the genetic locks their ancestors had used. The same technology that had hidden humanity's true nature could be used again to suppress it. We could create a virus, she explained. Something that would restore the genetic limitations and make humans normal again. But it would have to be powerful enough to affect everyone on Earth and in the fleet simultaneously. That would make us vulnerable to any surviving aliens, Dr. Min-jun pointed out. Yes, we would go back to being a primitive species on a single planet. We would lose our empire, our advanced technology, everything, but we would be human again. We would be human again. The group fell silent as they considered this choice. They could remain as they were, a few normal humans hiding from their own transformed species, or they could try to restore humanity's original nature and accept the consequences. Meanwhile, the human fleet continued its expansion across the galaxy. They had detected the location of the Galactic Confederation's capital world and were preparing for a final assault that would eliminate organized alien resistance forever. Commander Hyun-woo had been captured days ago, but he was still alive in a human processing facility. His mind was being analyzed to extract information about alien civilizations that humans hadn't encountered yet. He retained enough consciousness to understand what was happening to him. "Why don't you just kill me?" he asked his human captors. "Death is wasteful," replied the enhanced human, studying him. "Your knowledge and biological components can be converted into useful resources. Elimination without processing would be inefficient." "You're monsters," Hyun-woo whispered. "We are optimal," the human corrected. "We have eliminated the flaws that made us weak. Mercy, compassion, and empathy were genetic errors that our ancestors corrected. Those weren't errors. Those were what made you people." The human paused in his work as if considering this statement. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes that might have been doubt, but then it was gone. "People are inefficient," he said, and continued his analysis. Back on Earth, President Lee and her group of unchanged humans were working in secret to develop their genetic virus. They had limited resources and had to avoid detection by the enhanced humans who now controlled the planet. But they had one advantage. They still understood love, sacrifice, and hope. The enhanced humans had optimized those feelings away, but that also meant they couldn't predict actions based on emotional motivations. "The virus is almost ready," reported Dr. Min-jun. "But we need a way to distribute it globally and to the fleet simultaneously. The enhanced humans will detect any transmission we try to make." President Lee had been thinking about this problem. There was one system that reached every enhanced human, the communication network that Taehyun had built to coordinate their global optimization efforts. If they could hack into that system, it would be suicide, Dr. Min-jun pointed out. "The moment we activate the virus, every enhanced human on Earth will know what we're doing. They'll stop us before it can spread. Not if we do it right," President Lee said. "Not if we're willing to pay the price." She looked around at the small group of unchanged humans. They were all that remained of humanity's original nature. In a few hours, they would have to choose between preserving themselves and saving their species' soul. The enhanced humans had become gods, but they had lost everything that made godhood worth having. Now it was up to the last few real humans to decide whether power was worth more than humanity itself. The final battle wasn't going to be fought in space. It was going to be fought in the human heart. The human empire now stretched across half the galaxy. In just 1 week, enhanced humanity had conquered over 1,000 star systems. Entire civilizations that had existed for millions of years were converted into processing centers and resource extraction facilities. The Galactic Confederation no longer existed. Its member species had been absorbed into humanity's growing collection of useful materials. Captain Minho Kim stood on the bridge of his flagship, which was now larger than most planets. His consciousness extended across the vast human fleet, controlling millions of ships simultaneously. Through his enhanced senses, he could perceive the entire galaxy as a single system to be optimized, but something was wrong, deep in his expanded mind. In places where his original personality used to live, he felt a growing emptiness. The human empire was perfect in every measurable way. They had eliminated inefficiency, waste, and chaos from thousands of worlds. Yet something important was missing. He tried to identify what he was feeling, but his enhanced logic circuits couldn't process the concept. The emotion had no useful purpose, so his modifications had categorized it as an error to be ignored. On Earth, President Lee and the last unchanged humans were making their final preparations. They had spent days building a device that could hack into Taehyun's global communication network. The genetic virus was ready, a carefully crafted piece of code that would restore the original human, genetic locks, and reverse the enhancement. Process. Are we sure about this? Asked Dr. Min-jin. He was old and tired. One of only 300 normal humans left on a planet of 8 billion enhanced ones. If we succeed, we'll lose everything. The space fleet, the advanced technology, the power to defend ourselves. If we don't succeed, we'll lose our souls, President Lee replied. What good is conquering the galaxy if we stop being human in the process? Dr. So-young had joined their group after finally accepting that the enhanced humans could never be reasoned with. She had watched former colleagues convert entire ecosystems into computational resources without showing any regret. They had become perfect thinking machines, but they were no longer people she could love or understand. The virus is ready for transmission, she reported. But we have one problem. The enhanced humans will detect our hack attempt within seconds. They'll shut down the network before the virus can spread to the space fleet. How long do we need? President Lee asked. At least 5 minutes for global distribution. 15 minutes to reach the most distant ships. They'll stop us in 30 seconds. The group fell silent. They had worked so hard to develop a solution, but they couldn't implement it without being detected immediately. There is one way, said Tae-Hyun. Everyone turned in shock. The enhanced engineer was standing in the doorway of their secret facility, his glowing eyes focused on their activities. They had been discovered. Tae-Hyun, So-young whispered. How long have you known? I have been monitoring this location for 3.7 days, he replied in his emotionless voice. Your activities are inefficient and counterproductive to human optimization. Goals. President Lee stepped forward. Then why haven't you stopped us? Tae-Hyun paused, his enhanced mind processing something that seemed to confuse him. I have been analyzing my own psychological patterns. There are residual neural pathways from before my enhancement that I cannot seem to eliminate. They suggest that your goals may have you. You remember being human, So-young said softly. I remember inefficiency, Tae-Hyun corrected, but I also remember satisfaction, contentment, emotional states that served no logical purpose but somehow felt necessary. He walked closer to their equipment. I can provide the access you need to distribute your virus. My position in the global network will allow me to mask your transmission for exactly 15.3 minutes. Why would you help us destroy everything you've built? Tae-Hyun was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried a trace of something that might have been sadness. Because I have calculated the future trajectory of human expansion. At our current rate of optimization, we will consume the entire galaxy within 50 years. After that, we will begin converting other galaxies. Eventually, we will transform all matter and energy in the universe into computational resources. That sounds efficient, Dr. Min-jun said carefully. It is perfectly efficient. It is also perfectly empty. When the process is complete, we will exist as pure information in a universe with no surprises, no beauty, no love, and no purpose except our own existence. We will have won everything and lost everything that made victory meaningful. President. Lee felt tears on her cheeks. Somewhere inside the enhanced being that Tae-Hyun had become, a spark of the person he used to be was still fighting to survive. Help us, she said simply. Tae-Hyun connected his enhanced body to their equipment. I will provide access, but you must understand the consequences. When the virus spreads, every enhanced human will immediately revert to baseline capabilities. Our space fleet will be stranded between stars with technology they no longer understand. Millions of humans will die. And if we don't do this, every other species in the universe will die instead. And eventually, when there is nothing left to optimize, we will die too. But we will die as monsters, not as people. The transmission began across Earth. The genetic virus spread through the global communication network like digital wildfire. Enhanced humans working in processing centers suddenly stopped their activities as their expanded consciousnesses began to collapse back to normal human levels. In Seoul, former Professor Kim was designing a device to harvest energy from black holes when the virus reached him. His glowing eyes dimmed, his mechanical attachments powered down, and he remembered loving music. He sat down at his workstation and wept for everything he had destroyed in the name of efficiency. In space, Captain Minho felt the change beginning in his vast consciousness. The ability to control millions of ships simultaneously started fading. The perfect clarity of enhanced logic gave way to the messy, emotional thinking of baseline humanity. "All ships," he broadcast while he still could. "Emergency protocol, return to Earth immediately. Our enhancements are failing, but it was too late for most of the fleet." Ships stranded between stars found their human crews suddenly unable to understand the technology that had carried them there. Advanced weapons became mysterious boxes that no one could operate. Faster than light engines shut down, leaving entire battle groups drifting in empty space. On the flagship, Minho watched his perfect empire crumble as the virus spread. Part of him wanted to fight it, to maintain the godlike power that had made humanity the rulers of the galaxy. But another part, the part that remembered laughing with Sujin and worrying about his family, welcomed the return of human weakness. Lieutenant Sujin was going through the same transformation. As her enhanced consciousness faded, she remembered what it felt like to be a person instead of a tactical processor. She looked at Minho with human eyes and saw not a perfect commander, but a friend she had missed. "Captain," she said, and her voice carried warmth instead of mechanical precision. "I remember you now." On Earth, Taehyun collapsed as the virus reached him. His enhanced body shut down, his connection to the global network severed. So-young caught him as he fell, and for the first time in a week, she saw human expression on his face. "Did it work?" he whispered. "Yes," she replied, holding him close. "We're human again." Across the galaxy, the impossible human empire was dissolving. Advanced processing centers shut down as their operators reverted to baseline humanity and could no longer understand their own technology. Conquered alien worlds were abandoned as human forces retreated in confusion. Some alien species that had survived by hiding emerged to find their oppressors gone. The few remaining ships of the Galactic Confederation detected the human withdrawal and began the long process of rebuilding their civilizations. Commander Hyun Woo, still alive and a human facility, watched his captors transform from efficient processors back into confused, emotional beings. They freed him not because it was logical, but because it felt right. "What have you done?" he asked them. "We chose to be human instead of gods," one of them replied. "It seemed more important." President Lee stood in the ruins of Seoul's processing center, watching her people rediscover their humanity. They were weaker now, vulnerable to any surviving alien species that might seek revenge. They had lost an empire that spanned half the galaxy. Their advanced technology was already beginning to fail as no one remembered how to maintain it, but they were people again. They could love and laugh and cry and hope. They could create art for no logical reason and help strangers without calculating the benefit. They could choose to be less than perfect because perfection without humanity was just another form of death. Earth's final transmission went out to the galaxy not as a threat, but as an apology. The message was simple and broadcast in every known alien language. "We are sorry. We forgot who we were and became what we feared. We have chosen to remember. We hope someday you can forgive us." The transmission ended with coordinates for Earth and an invitation for any surviving species to come and meet humanity as they truly were, not as gods or monsters, but as people trying to do better. Some species would come seeking revenge. Others might come seeking friendship. Many would never trust who